Hey, PPSIMMONS fans, Mike Shoesmith here. There's a famous Canadian scientist up here who, if you go on YouTube, you can look this up. He became famous for referring to people as maggots on the earth. And if you type into YouTube David Suzuki maggots, and then the video will come up, you'll see him sitting in some weeds, unwashed, teaching a class, explaining to them how he believes people are just maggots on the earth. And that made him famous, and he became the darling of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and they gave him lucrative contracts to do television and radio shows for them. And, you know, the Canadian public, they were enamored with him. They thought, oh, this man is so nuanced. And you know, it was kind of like, in the beginning with David Suzuki, it was kind of like, for people, it was like the horror of a car wreck. You know, it's a horrible thing, but you can't help but look, right? The whole idea of referring to people as maggots on the earth, it was a disgusting, distasteful thing for people to hear, but they couldn't stop listening to this man, and eventually he became just a household name in Canada. And it's sad because he spent his entire career attacking humanity, beginning with calling us maggots on the earth. He attacked our use of the resources, and you know, he made millions attacking humanity, and still does to this day. Now, it gets even more serious for me personally, because when my daughter graduated from college, I hadn't looked into who the commencement speaker would be. This was about 6 or 7 years ago. Now, remember that Suzuki became famous for the maggot comment back in the 70s. 6 or 7 years ago, when my daughter graduated from college, when I went into the auditorium to watch her accept her diploma and listen to the commencement speakers, one of those speakers was David Suzuki. And I sat there for my daughter's sake, and I was dumbfounded by what this man told these young people, these young minds. He was giving the commencement speech, and it was vulgar, to say the least. But I'm going to tell you what he said. If you have very young children listening, you might want to take them into the other room. Now, this was David Suzuki, media darling and science darling of the liberal community here in Canada. Has made millions off of taxpayer money, because the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is taxpayer funded. This was his commencement speech to my daughter and hundreds like her. He got up to the podium and he said, "You're all just animals. That's all you are." He said, when I was growing up in British Columbia, now this was his words now, he said, I was a very horny 14-year-old. And he said that he fell in love with nature because he used to go out into the forests of British Columbia to masturbate. And that's why he fell in love with the forests around the world. And his commencement to these young people was, you're just animals, that's all you are. And my charge to you, he said, was to protect the forests and the jungles and the woods in your sphere of influence, so that future generations of 14-year-olds have some place to go to masturbate, to fall in love with nature themselves. Thank you very much. Have a nice life. That was David Suzuki's commencement speech to my daughter's graduating college class. Isn't that amazing? Now, the reason I'm bringing this up today is because guess who's in the news? No, it's not David Suzuki. It's Sir David Attenborough. And what was the headline in today's news? David Attenborough says he's the He is the atheist who narrates the British these television shows on BBC and whatnot about nature and the earth and the promotion of evolution and atheism, etc., etc. So he's the narrator of this, and he said this week that humans are a plague on the earth. The television presenter said that humans are threatening their own existence and that of other species by using up the world's resources. He said now this is what he said. The only way to save the planet from famine and species extinction is to limit what? Human population growth. The only way to save the planet from famine and species extinction is to limit human population growth. He said, quote, "We are a plague on the earth. It's coming home to roost over the next 50 years or so," he said. "It's not just climate change, it's sheer space. Places to grow food for this enormous horde. Either we limit our population growth or the natural world will do it for us. And the natural world is doing it for us right now," he told the Radio Times. Now, I want to get to the next paragraph here in a minute. But the Bible specifically says, God commanded Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth, and subdue it, and be good patrons of it. Good stewards of the earth. There is a difference between stewardship and being a plague on the earth. David Attenborough believes that people are just animals. He believes exactly what David Suzuki believes. He believes that people are maggots. In fact, he goes even further. He says we are a plague on the earth. This next paragraph is very telling. Sir David, who is a patron of the Optimum Population Trust, has spoken out before about the frightening explosion in human numbers and the need for investment in sex education and other voluntary means of limiting population in developing countries. If it's voluntary, Mr. Attenborough, if it's voluntary, if you think there are too many people on this planet, we would put to you that you would volunteer to start the movement, to kick it off, by doing yourself in and doing the world a favor. Because you, sir, are a plague on the earth. You and David Suzuki and everyone else who claims to be the higher intellect in the world, promoting atheistic ideas, calling me a plague on the earth, calling my family a plague on the earth, you, sir, and your kind are a plague on the earth. And we ask you, sir, to do the right thing and to do yourself in and do the world a favor, and take David Suzuki with you. Maybe you and David Suzuki and the remaining 3 members of the 4 horsemen, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, the 4th one, is already gone. All of you sign a pact that together you will get as many as you can together of your kind and kill yourselves. Do the planet a favor, but more importantly, do the rest of us a favor. And volunteer to do the right thing here and kill yourselves, please. Because we're tired of hearing from you and your nuanced sophistry claiming that frogs are more important than people. There are not too many people on the earth, Mr. Attenborough. There are too many atheists in the earth. That's the problem here. Anyways, that's my rant for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.